Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe this time. Let's see. Whoop, starting. Something's happening. Now, there should be a chat box. We should be able to bring it up somewhere. That's 0 watching. Hey everybody, I'm not sure if there's anyone out there. Can you give us a note in the chat if you can hear and see us, if audio and video is working? Now, where's the chat box?
It's down there.
Hey, Mr. Harrison, how'd you do, Johnny? Thanks for that. G'day, Andy. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Oh,
Happy days. So, hello everyone. Hello all two of you. Thanks for making it.
Can we see the chats in the other one?
Yeah, maybe. Let's have a look. We're just getting used to this software. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Yeah. Hello, Richard. Gosh, you're up very early in the morning, Richard, unless you're somewhere other than Japan at the moment. So we're obviously skilled hands at this. We've just spent the last couple of hours getting the software set up, so we're delighted to see that it's working and that we're able to communicate with you. Hello, Terence. Always enjoy your comments, mate. As for all of you, you're wonderful people, and of course you're the reason why we wanted to do this tonight, this morning. It was well overdue to give you a personal thank you for your support. I'm sure you do realise how much it means to us. Please tell us if there's any issues with audio or video, or I don't know, just any issues with the feed that we can improve on. We have been fiddling with our bandwidth here. It's not fantastic. So it's about 720p. You won't get much more than that, unfortunately, but as long as the audio is working.
Richard said this is good picture and sound.
Great. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, Richard. That's wonderful. Good, good. All right, so we might just chat amongst ourselves for a few minutes and see if anyone else turns up. And then we can get cracking on a couple of things we wanted to say. But in the meantime, of course, we're open to questions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, a little bit of a buffering issue. Okay, yeah. Yeah, we can't stream our own videos when we post them at 1080 here. That's the limit of our bandwidth, so I don't expect much on the upload side either. How's the weather, Andy? Well, next question. Well, I don't know, what's the temperature outside at the moment?
That's minus 20 something. Let me see.
So yeah, it's in the sort of the 20s and 30 C below. We should chuck a bucket of water out the window. We're on the 4th floor here, and just see if it freezes before it hits the ground.
Minus 30.
Minus 30 C.
Mm-hmm.
But at this time, because it kind of spans the time zones where the majority of our patrons live, sort of from the UK across to California. So it should be Sunday there. Hopefully you're all kicked back and enjoying the weekend. All right, well, there's 6 of you watching, so we're pretty wrapped. We might just break a bit of news to you first of all. We have a small announcement to make. He's about 350 grams at the moment. New Luckyfish crew member on the way in May. Zaya's pregnant. We're both delighted.
Yeah.
Figured if Mick Jagger can still do it at 80, I suppose I can father one at the ripe old age of 36.
Yeah, shaking.
Sorry there.
Laughing.
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, Andy, it's freezing, mate. But we're quite cosy in our apartment. Not too bad at all. we've been sealing it up because, you know, when it is that cold outside, all that cold air wants to do is come in. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, well, it's another crew member, you know. He's a wee boy, so no secrets there. Zaya's about 4 months gone now. Baby's due in May.
No, 5 months.
5 months. So yeah, we're very. We've been. It's kind of a Mongol. Well, I guess in the West we tend to keep these things quiet for 3 months or so. I don't know if that's the traditions that you fellows follow or have followed. But in Mongolia, they're a little bit more, I guess, circumspect about making any announcements. I guess it's a bit of superstition, also probably a little bit of history as well, you know, with miscarriages and so forth. But we're starting to feel out of the woods now at 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, so clearly a little bit of an impact on the sailing season, and also, you know, my work too, and coming back to Mongolia. So we've kind of just been playing it by ear, of course, with these things. Nothing's been, you know, I guess the confidence in what's going on is slowly unfolding. And so, yeah, with the sailing, at the latest, we'll be back on the boat probably in October. At the earliest, if we can get a penny to drop, I have a small property in Australia that's been on the market for a while, and I've been waiting for that to sell. But unfortunately it's been really slow. I don't know if any of you keep up with what's going on in Australian property at the moment, but property's in a full-on recession. It's values of housing is dropping, which is pretty extraordinary. Anyway, so yeah, not getting a lot of interest in the place. But if that was to sell, that would have to sell in the next month or two. And the odds of that happening aren't great. I seem to be doing all the talking, excuse me.
And you're saying, so that kills my question, if you're going to able to make the hui in this May. No, we can't make the hui this year. Sorry.
No, well, May's a wonderful month. I think it's probably the best month of the year. So we're delighted to be having a son in May. But it's also a time of the year when it's the peak of a whole lot of things that could be happening, and the hui's one of them. So we've just had to cancel any plans for May, as you can understand, I'm sure. No, that's right, Johnny, not my first. Zaya's first. I have 2 sons. They're in their 20s now, both in Canada. One's an engineer and the other one's a carpenter. And you know, you guys are the only guys who we've told about this baby apart from family. So I've been chomping to tell you. Yeah, well,
you want to see my bump?
See your bumper.
I don't know how the guy's interested in bumps.
Well, maybe they're getting their wives, and all the wives will be going, ah.
Like that.
She's a proud mum to be.
That's my news.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, good question, Andy.
What is that?
What's the medical system like there?
Oh, it's great, I thought.
Pardon me. Yeah, it's really good. You know, Mongolia's really modernising quick through a lot of, they're really well-trained, well-educated people here, you know, tertiary educated folks. And there's a lot of assistance that's come in from Japan and Korea in the medical area, hospital assistance and training of doctors and nurses. So it's actually coming out of that first stage of all the training, and now it's the Mongolian sort of medical personnel that have taken over. Japanese and Koreans are their aid work is finished and they're leaving, and it's they're running along on their own steam. But I'd like to find a good dentist though. Still looking. Yeah, good question, Richard. I have British and New Zealand and Australian nationality, and we, as you know, we've had trouble with Zaya with visas travelling across borders, and Zaya, as well as I, are really mindful of giving our child a passport that isn't going to create him or us headaches. So we did plan to have the baby in England initially, but we looked at the options. I have family in England, and even with Brexit in the wind, we figured a British passport's still going to open a few more doors than a Mongolian one, But with the money situation, we weren't really able to fund living in England. Even though I have family there, it's still a perishingly expensive place to live. Mongolia, on the other hand, is a place where we can live very comfortably on a very small income. So we have to weigh all those things up and make decisions. And sadly for my family who are in England, we've kind of decided we won't be having the baby there. And also we worked out that
you can apply for...
Yeah, there you go.
You can apply for New Zealand visa passport after the birth.
After the birth, that's right. Because I was born in New Zealand.
So you have more.
Yeah, I can have a firstborn, or I can have I can father children outside New Zealand, and they automatically pass on. I can pass on the New Zealand nationality to them, but I can't pass on the British one though. Because I'm a second generation British, if that makes sense. My parents are both English.
But you're not born there.
Not born there. And Mongolia doesn't have dual nationality either, so that's probably something we have to edit out of this. But but I think a few people get away with it here, particularly amongst the politicians.
So what's the next question?
I was trying to work through those, yeah. Yeah, so Richard, at this stage, yes, we will be in Mongolia for the birth. Sorry to give such long answers. Zaya's put me on strict instructions to not ramble and give you concise information. I guess I've already blown it.
Harrison said, is your healthcare heavily insurance weighted like the US?
I guess, you have health and social, what they call social and health insurance here, which all employees and employers co-contribute to. It's very small amounts of money.
Social and health insurance is...
Yeah, we don't have any health insurance. We kind of elect to pay if anything's required. That's something that I'm quite used to. We
just go to private hospital.
Yeah, private. If we need anything untoward seen to, then we pay for it. It's self-insured, I guess. Hello, Robert. Nice to see you. Welcome.
I think I've been watching.
Yeah. No easy alternatives to coal here in Mongolia, because all the heat and the electricity comes from coal. And it's really interesting if you're following, the climate stuff, the great climate debate. Rio Tinto, which is the biggest mining company in the world, people look to them to show some leadership, and their board last year made an announcement under pressure from their shareholders, a lot of their institutional shareholders, banks and so forth, to reduce their greenhouse emissions. So they've been busy selling all of their coal assets around the world, which is really significant. It doesn't mean that the coal's going to go away, it just means they're cleaning up their portfolio. But They also control, the biggest copper and gold mine in the world, underdeveloped at the moment, but it's in the Gobi Desert. And as part of the deal to develop that, they have to build a power station. And it's been an agreement with the government that they've been arguing over now for several years. They don't want to build a coal-fired power station because of their commitment to their shareholders. But sadly, they've just agreed to do it. In the context of what China's been building just across the border, it's not really a big deal, but Rio are supposed to be showing some leadership, and it was a bit saddening to see that they couldn't come up with an alternative for generating the power. I don't know how hard they thought about it, to be honest, but it also is really difficult to find something that's a substitute for something so easy as fossil fuels. Yeah. So that was the long answer to how do you get your electricity in Ulaanbaatar. Sorry about that. But yeah, we have 4 coal-fired power stations here in the city, 2 up the valley and 2 down the valley. So no matter which way the wind blows, you get a bit of the fallout from them. So the air quality here is bad at this time of the year.
In the city. We should go to countryside.
Yeah, we should really be in the countryside right now. We are thinking about it. But instead we've taken measures to seal up the apartment. We've got filters on the windows, we've got 2 air purifiers running, and actually the air quality in here is quite good. We have monitors to make sure things aren't too bad. But it's probably very similar to the pictures you've seen of Beijing. It can get really pea soupy out there with the smog.
So we can talk about the
Oh, Robert, that's lovely. Yeah, I'd love to hear how your travels are. I know you shelved your sailing season, Robert. For anyone who's listening, has a Tangaroa, I believe, 36 that you've done a renovation on. Tolfia, and you're heading down the west coast of the US soon, I believe. It's winter time now where you are, isn't it? So you're waiting for the spring. Yeah. Well, I hope we do meet up. That would be fantastic. It looks like we're going to be sticking around the Caribbean for a while, and the US. We might come to that in a minute, but we really are pretty enamoured with that whole part of the world. So we're not in a rush to go across the Pacific.
Any issues with pollution, like in China, big cities?
Absolutely, Terry. I think I probably got to that. Yeah. It's quite an issue. There's also, there's 3 million people in Mongolia, and 1.5 million of them live right here in Ulaanbaatar. So it's a big city.
So the people living in the Gir district, they are burning coal. So that's the mostly causing the pollution.
Yeah. To explain, the Gir district is it's like a shanty town that's sort of built up on the outskirts of the city. So you've got houses and you've got high rise, and then on the outside of that you've got these yurt districts which pretty much surround the city.
And he's asking, are you working full time now?
No, Andy, no, I'm not. I would like to be. I have put in some proposals here for work to various mining companies. Without any assistance, without any luck. Some irons in the fire. I did complete some work down in the Gobi recently for a Chinese and English company who are doing some gold exploration down there. That project looks like it's going to grow. So again, the mining industry is really on the uptick, and they're crying out for geologists. So I was hoping a bit of that might trickle into Mongolia, but the demand just isn't here. The foreign investors haven't come back. Long story, but since 2012 things have been pretty depressed here investment wise. So I was planning to head over to Oz and you know, get into some work over there, get some money together, and then we could get our cruising kitty back in shape. But of course, things aren't really ideal for that. I'd like to be with Zaya at the moment while she's going through what she's going through. And
But you're working pretty much full time editing the videos.
yeah, well, that's right. And you know, I'm treating it as an opportunity to bring the video timeline up to speed as well. You know, because hardly a day goes by without someone saying, you know, we're so far behind. You know, have you got the year right on the calendar?
So
I don't know really what it matters, to be honest, but you know, the experiences are out there. What year they occurred in is pretty immaterial. But I think people as viewers, perhaps you can answer this, like to know that the information they're getting is more up to date through the videos.
So next few episodes of ours
Yeah.
will be with
Well, now if you saw the one that went out yesterday, then this is really the start of the season that's just gone, and we had some really good times with some of you patrons. Oh look, none of them have turned up, honey. We must have really upset them during the year. They're not here for the live chat, but joking. Yeah, we had a ball. So we had about 10 weeks of with 6 or 7 guests from our patrons, and shot quite a lot of video, had some great adventures, and finally Zaya and I, we learned what the exhumas are all about and why everyone makes such a fuss about the place. It really is spectacular, and I'd urge any of you that haven't seen it at some stage to get down there and just take in the colours. It's quite surreal, and yeah, that's really in our mind to go back.
So after those episodes, we planning to do some Mongolian videos.
That's right. Yeah. I think the material we've got from the season just gone is probably going to be all aired before April or around April sometime. And then of course we haven't really collected a lot of material since we've been back. We've been pretty busy with the video editing and doing other things, making babies.
Shaking the table.
Sorry, I'm a bit of a jigger. So yeah, we have shot some just specific events here in Mongolia that we'd like to share, but it's kind of really off the whole sailing track, and it's hard to make the two things sort of, you know, work together in terms of, you know, our viewers as well. They expect certain material from us. Bit of a shock if we turn up with some Buddhist monks and a shaman, you know. But amongst, you know, we've been through this last year when we did that questionnaire, which a lot of you were very encouraging about, putting out the Mongolian stuff. So, you know, we will do it, but at the moment, sort of enjoying editing the sailing stuff and getting that out. If we go into a whole several months of Mongolia, though, I think it could be really quite negative for our channel. You know, I am mindful of that. So these things will work out, they always do. But at the moment, we just haven't really got a plan of you know, what we're going to do post-April in terms of sailing video. That's not entirely true. I do have a few ideas.
Robert Johnson said, because we need to give you a copy of the wonderful book, Voyaging with the Kids. With the Kids by Gifford.
Yeah, it's time we started reading up on that. I know Totem, isn't it? SV Totem are sort of like the gurus on that, the bloggers. We've got it all worked out.
How many kids they have?
Oh, I think they might have 3 or 4. But both my boys were homeschooled, so I'm quite sort of familiar with homeschooling, and this is probably something that we can really talk about and expand on in the future. But I think it's really exciting to have a baby on the way. As any of you fathers or mothers out there know, it's an opportunity to relive your own childhood again. So, and I think in the day and age we live in now, I think things are very different for kids, you know, and homeschooling probably has an even bigger role to play. So, yeah, I think this wee boy, all going well, is going to have a pretty exciting and adventurous life. May not be in the conventional ones that perhaps we were used to when we were that age. But as far as college goes and a lot of that stuff these days, it seems a little bit outdated and rapidly getting left behind with all the change, the rapid pace of change. There's probably other values and skills that you can instill in kids. Yeah, I'm watching that lens and I can see it bouncing.
Yeah.
But I digress again. Totems of the authors of that book. Aha, okay.
Oh.
How interesting. Do you have a name yet?
So we have an idea of what kind of name we want, right?
Yeah. Well, we haven't come to an agreement yet, and luckily there's a few months to go. But there's a rather nice tradition in Mongolia. I don't know if I'm willing to risk it though, but they have well, can you explain how it's done? Naming a baby.
Everybody write their name for the baby, then like a lottery, put it in the rice, then rice in the bowl.
Yeah, bowl of rice.
Bowl of rice.
Dry rice.
Yeah, then shake it, then one comes up, that's the name.
And the family members
Can be risky, though.
Yeah, the family members all get to, you know, nominate a name, and then it's sort of up to the chance of which one pops up. But there's some pretty strange Mongolian names, so I'm not sure I'm willing to go down that route. Most of them are quite nice names, mind you.
Definitely.
But some of them also have English connotations that you'd have to be a bit careful of.
Yeah.
So I saw one there from, was it Johnny? The Gulf Stream. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that one, Johnny. I think that was I don't know, it was a lot of me talking in it, and I thought, bugger it, I'll put it out there anyway, you know. Because I know the Gulf Stream is a bit of a mental barrier for a lot of US-based sailors or aspiring sailors. I don't think it needs to be. And yeah, I mean, if anyone watches it, they can just see how easy it can be if you just wait for the weather, and you know, it's not such a big deal. I know there are some horror stories there when people go out with wind against current and all the rest of it, but if you observe those, you know, those rules of thumb, it was a good video to get out there anyway. It'll help someone, you know, overcome any doubts. That's nice. Thanks, Johnny.
As many kids in Mongolia homeschooled? I don't think there's many homeschooling
No.
program here, so we better go with Stuart's
Yeah.
homeschooling.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly, I think it's fine up to a given age, you know. And who knows? I mean, baby's not in this world yet, so it's be another 5 years before we have to make those decisions, and let's just take every step at a time. But homeschooling definitely on the cards.
So we can get on a few things here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit funny, isn't it, Robert? We notice what's going on out there. I guess it's inevitable amongst that age that's doing YouTube and out sailing. A lot of the popular ones are sort of millennials or a bit older, and of course all of those girls have ticking biological clocks. and it's probably inevitable that quite a few of them start making announcements about marriage and starting families. Yeah, so one other thing that's been sort of bubbling away in the background, and I guess it always does with any boat owner, you're always thinking about another boat, and I guess a bit of a catalyst is having a baby, but also for us, the season we had with the patrons on board this year and having guests on board the boat last year left a real lasting impression on us. There was a whole lot of things that sort of came together, and the other thing was the improvements that we made to the boat in Florida, and we haven't really got to talking about those in the videos yet, but I can tell you that the boat, it's just come together so well. It's such a pleasure to sail now, the sail handling, and also I think our confidence in the boat and ourselves has got to a point where it is a little bit like a toy. I don't want to sound complacent, but some of the challenge has kind of been met with the boat, and that's a really exciting place to be because it's kind of fun. And also being in the Caribbean, it's a pretty nice place to sail if you've sailed in any of the higher latitudes. You know, and plus in this day and age we've got all this wonderful weather forecasting. It's kind of like a bit of the challenge has gone out of it. It's a little bit like mission accomplished with Luckyfish, to a point. I'm sort of just touching on that as an idea. So there's a few things that are sort of coming together. Although there's a little bit more we'd like to do with the boat, I still see it as a bit of a test bed. But I can say that, you know, if we ever do get another boat and if we expand things a little, it's going to be very much along the whole Luckyfish design principle. In fact, so much of that boat is going to go into a bigger boat. There's very little that I would want to leave out. You know, the canoe sterns, the deep V's, but it has to be bigger. We need a little bit more comfort, and we'd like some more cabins for guests. You know, I guess I'm doing all the talking, but just cut me off, please. But yeah, at the end of the season, I mean, it was nice to say goodbye to the guests. We gave ourselves a day or two break between patrons on board. We had them on board for a week or 2 weeks at a time. But when it was all finished, we really felt like the boat was a little bit dead without the extra life on board. It's not that we're sick of each other's company or anything like that, but the boat really did come to life with other people on board. So yeah, so we kind of realised there is a limitation with Luckyfish, you know. I mean, a lot of the time when we were out there in the Bahamas, you know, Zara and I would be up in Toya's cabin, which you can imagine was pretty tight, but we really insisted that the couples that came on board had the main cabin. But, you know, as far as making that sustainable goes, I don't think we could, you know, doing it on a regular basis. So we'd like a bit more flexibility. I look at production cats and think, well, you know, we'll sell Luckyfish, get a bit of cash together and buy something else. It just doesn't excite me at all. I can't get excited about, you know.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, no, but you've got to have your heart in it, and there's so many really sound design principles in the Warrum. I see a larger Warrum anyway, with a few of the issues addressed. And then I think we'd have just an amazing catamaran in a world where there aren't many amazing catamarans. So anyway, yeah, many of the kids in Mongolia homeschooled? No. So what is? Yeah. So Richard, you've got a question there. Yeah. Well, you can answer that one, honey. Richard's asking how will the family feel about being away from Mongolia, having the baby on a boat?
Who's my family?
Yeah.
No, they're fine. My family is quite open-minded, I suppose, right?
They're wonderful, yeah. Fantastic in-laws. The most welcoming people.
So, everybody makes their own decision. They don't get into our lives, right?
Yeah.
Our life.
No, they don't. They don't. No. But we're there to help, and they help us. It's wonderful. You know, it's a really nice part of the whole society here. It's one of the things that, you know, I really appreciate. I have a close family too, but nothing like this. The closeness of of just the normal society here in Mongolia. There's a real kinship amongst the people as well. They're also at each other's throats like everybody else, but when it comes to unity, you know, the country are very proud of their culture and are quite unified in that way. So yeah, I mean, as far as going away on a boat, well, you know, your mum and dad have just had 2 of their daughters go across the Atlantic, which is pretty unheard of, and they barely batted an eyelid about it. They enjoyed watching the videos, but to be honest, it's completely out of this world to them. I don't know how much of it they really comprehended, you know. But I know they're proud of their daughters. I have asked if they'd like to come sailing with us too, by the way, but it's out of the question. I mean, they haven't been out of Mongolia. To put them on a boat would be a real shock to the system, you know. Yeah, you know, they live very countryside lives, you know, so it'd be a real shock. Andy, Pahi 52 or 63, no. And you know why? Timber. I really wouldn't want to go bigger than a Tiki 38 in wood. You know, and there's a lot of maintenance with wood. There are better solutions out there, and I don't think fiberglass is ideal either, to be honest. Not for what we have in mind. And not steel. The families will change the dynamic of the channels, more of others. Late night parties versus Dana Beach Party. Yeah, that's true, Robert. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think channels will kind of evolve, and the viewers of those channels evolve too. I think, you know, take for example, Sailing the Vagabond. You know, the core viewers that were in there in the early days have probably all left now, but they've picked up a whole bunch of more, you know, perhaps, you know, less badass sailing community and more sort of family oriented, or millennials, you know, pursuing their dreams, but maybe they will, maybe they won't. So yeah, sailing channels evolve, and so do the viewers. But there'll always be other ones to come in and take their place. So yeah, I agree, Terry. I think cats are the way to go, you know. Yeah, I mean, you know, I can't imagine sailing on a mono again, to be honest. You can see how easy life is on Luckyfish in those videos. You know, we're living in that flat, stable world.
Yeah.
And we do have that safety valve in that boat as well. You know, it is got that low aspect rig and low windage hulls. It really sets it apart, having that element of safety. I read a good sort of tagline for a boat builder the other day. It was a French yard, I think. It might have been the OVNI people who do the alloy multi-chine monohulls. I think their tagline was something like, there's no better comfort in the middle of the ocean than safety. And that's so true, you know. Some of those production boats look great alongside, you know, the boat shows. But get them out in the middle of the ocean, and that's really where the comfort is. It's all up here. It's whether you're, you know, white-knuckled and wondering about what's going to happen next, or whether you've got a boat that's just taking the stress away because of the design, you know, inherent in the design. I think that's what Warren's done. Yeah.
So that's happening in this season.
Yeah, so we had a few notes, didn't we? I had a couple of questions actually from, I'll just get to keep.
What material do you think we
Boats or our boat? Yeah, that's right, Robert. Yeah, I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Doesn't it great? Yes, the aluminium, Terry, absolutely, especially for a one-off. You know, one-off. We have a patron who I've had a bit been talking to him a little lately. He's he built a 48. He designed and built his own 48-foot aluminium catamaran, and he just sold it recently, and he's building another. In fact, he was drawn to our channel because of the Warrum, and I've kind of been working with him a little bit and just bouncing ideas back and forwards for a bigger boat, and we're trying to come up with something that will fit what he wants to do, and he will do it in aluminium, but he's a CNC guy. He's an engineer, he's a pilot, but he's a very capable, sort of multi-skilled fellow, and he's working with about 4 yacht designers who he brings in just on different consulting parts of the project. It's really interesting where it's heading. So, having talks to him, it seems that if you're going to do a one-off, aluminium is the way to go in multis. I mean, for monos, you've got you've got other choices, but you need to keep it light for a cat. So it's really fiberglass, composite, or aluminium. And with fiberglass, of course, there's all the tools and moulds and things. It's huge. You've got to build sort of at least two boats before you get your boat. So there's huge expense involved unless you're going to go into production. So with CNC and aluminium, you can build a boat quite quickly. I know that's famous last words, but yeah, I'm getting the impression that you can put an aluminium boat together very, very fast after the design's done. Yeah, Johnny, longer boats as opposed to wood. Yeah, well, for me, I can see the amount of maintenance in a wooden boat from Luckyfish, and it's quite a bit. A lot of our time in Florida was dealing with just small issues, hairline cracks and things before they got any bigger. And when I think about sort of something like a Tiki 46, and I've always maintained this view, I think the Tiki 46 is way too big. Unless you've got a family of teenage sons or whatever who are all handy with their hands, or a good Mongolian crew, who are going to work for 3 months of the year, constantly maintaining, then I don't see a lot of the pleasure in that, to be honest. I see aluminium as being very durable. No, I wouldn't, Terry. No, I'd monocoque it. Why are you so interested? You're asking all the right questions, Terry. Yeah, no, we'd monocoque it next time, but just make it super strong. Yeah, I think if you just go...
The lashing. How do you like lashing?
The lashings are great, but again, all these things are a matter of scale, with ring frames and beams, you can monocoque it. I mean, I think the whole Warrum thing was great for the period when he was designing boats, and it still applies today when you're home building a boat to hold it all together. Lashings are a really good solution to those high stress areas. They certainly have a role to play today amongst home builds, but if you're looking at professional build or using professional materials, aluminium sort of out of the reach of most amateurs, then you don't need to go to lashings. You can build the strength into those joints. Yeah. So that's the plan. So we're looking at something, it's probably a couple of years away, and in the meantime, while we're doing the whole baby thing and we're getting a little bit of sailing in as soon as we can, in the meantime, I'm hoping just to start working up a design for a larger Luckyfish, really. We're looking at something perhaps with about 3 guest cabins and about 3 crew cabins, so it won't be a small boat. Got absolutely no idea how we're going to pay for it, but I think if it's a good idea and we get it out there, I think it might build up a bit of a head of steam itself. So the idea about being able to share it with guests is really important, and that's where you guys are going to come into it, I hope. So it's been an education of me, and I have no idea that boats have to be managed, so probably durable. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, if you put yourself in the shoes of an amateur builder, putting those 2 canoes together and then throw it against all the stresses on an uneven surface with all the force of the sea, you can see those beam joints are a real key area. And all Warren did was copy what the Polynesians had come up with, because they didn't have the technology to build those joins any better. So lashings are an obvious solution.
So you were talking about the 3 cabins for crew?
Yeah, well, it starts to get a little bit esoteric at some point, but 3 cabins loosely for guests, two cabins for paying guests. So the boat would be built to survey, so it could work commercially, but we'd dedicate 1 cabin to patrons. And I think this is a pretty cool idea, and we could just pull a name out of the hat. I don't know, however it's going to work out, but there's obviously a lot of hurdles to get through between now and then to get it up to construction drawing stage. But we're working on this 3 guest cabin idea and having 1 cabin dedicated to patrons. So wherever that boat is, there's a space there for people to come on board, for patrons to come on board by some sort of lottery system. I've seen it used on a couple of the other channels, and it started me thinking about it. And I thought, well, that's a really good idea. What a great way for a payback, as a free payback, not the way we did it last year, which was obviously paid, but we do it as a raffle, and do it like one of the other channels do it, with a proportional, however much patrons contribute, it increases their chances proportionately in getting in the draw. We might make sort of 6 or 10 draws a year. What was that noise? Hopefully the connection's still good. We just had a little bit of an alarm go off. You probably heard it. Just if someone could type something and let us know it's all still going. Looks like it is our end. So we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but that's what we have in mind. And also, I think the time on board, we'd be looking at sort of minimum 2 weeks as being an ideal, so that we can get away from ports and airports a bit and really use the boat. Okay. Are we still on the air, guys?
I think so, yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thanks, Richard. So what are your thoughts on all that?
The one is for the patrons, and
yeah, well, two would fund the boat. We'd have to. A large boat takes a lot of dough to keep it rolling. So great, Terry. Thank you. So, what do you think about the idea of a big Luckyfish? Do you think we'd be losing out? I mean, it's not an easy decision for us.
Great, Mum. Thank you. Hope so.
It hasn't been an easy decision to go down this path, and it's certainly not set in cement yet. We're kind of feeling quite comfortable with the way things are. Luckyfish is. We're kind of on top of that boat now. The YouTube channel's in quite a nice state. It's sort of growing steadily, and we keep working at that. Your support's fantastic, of course. We're living in a fairly low-cost sort of lifestyle. We've simplified our lives, which is something we set out to do some years ago, and we kind of got there. So, there's kind of a question in my mind is, why would we go to all the stress of trying to build something bigger with so much more organisation and money involved when we could just continue like this? And so, it's kind of one of those decisions. Yeah, right, Terry, good one. But
Andy said the charter side and the baby is the only difficult.
Absolutely, Andy. Yeah. Has to be big then, doesn't it? Have a children's corner.
Soundproofed.
It's things sort of happen, don't they? And when things start to sort of happen synchronously, you kind of become quite receptive to it. And one of the things that's also influencing, my choice in this is what's happened in the last few months with these questions that we've been putting out to viewers. It's really surprised me. We did the wind generator one, and just look at the depth of knowledge that came back from the viewers on that noise issue we had with the generator. That really surprised me. The phrase YouTube University just popped into mind, and I'm sure I've heard it somewhere else, but that's kind of what it left me feeling. And we had a similar thing with the Windows 10 meltdown. So many wonderful computer guys wrote in and just generously spent their time offering advice on what to do to prevent another meltdown like that again. All of that information I collected, and it helps, guide us in the decisions that we're going to make we have made to sort out our data problem for a start, and what we're going to make on the wind generator. And even just the little bit of aluminium issues we had with that subframe and the deck, and the aft deck in Florida. A few aircraft people, Johnny, you might have been one of them, there was a few there that piped up with, paint solutions. Now, I could spend hours Googling or on the phone trying to ring people and probably not get the depth of knowledge and advice that YouTube viewers are able to provide. So that's quite exciting, and I think that's quite a new thing about social media. It can be channeled for a lot of good. And I don't know, there's a lot of responsibility, and you don't want to be wasting people's time ever. So, if we commit to doing something like this, we have to really commit to it. So there is that side as well. Do we really want to commit to something where we're kind of involving a lot of people?
And this thing.
Yeah, I agree, Andy. Yep, that's a reality. Yeah, it's interesting, but I think there's also the angle that we were drawn to the Warham angle too, and still are. So I think that speaks volumes. Actually, we're not looking for a diametric shift. We're going to adopt so much of what Warham has done, because we've had it out there, we've tried and tested it ourselves. We can see its limitations, but we can see the benefits as well. And, we're happy to continue along that same decision line. If anything, I think going bigger with a Warham is a heck of a vote of confidence in all the smaller Warhams out there. Some of you might be aware of Warren Matthews, who built a Tiki 38 called Natural High. It's one of the nicer Tiki 38s out there. He spent about 700,000 New Zealand dollars on it, which is about $500,000 US. Mostly, or some of it due to an issue he had with the first builder in Thailand, but he shipped the two hulls over to New Zealand and finished them off with a professional, and he hired architects and so forth to finish the design. Did a beautiful job on it, a little bit overweight for some, but
Made by?
Smart fellow.
Made by what material?
Made by plywood, same plywood and glass, and a bit of foam in places. He actually changed the aft sections of the hull profiles a little to add a little bit more displacement down aft, which is not a bad idea. I don't know where I was going with all that, and so Warren, he's finished now with that boat. He's just sold it to a fellow who's on the Warren Catamaran group. You'll probably start hearing more from him in time. And he's building a 60-foot Tiki 38. Modernised. Looks like a hell of an expensive boat. He sent me some of the renders. He's selling his business and cashing in and going for it, which is wonderful. But to me that means a lot. There's a guy, he's got a good boating background, he's quite knowledgeable, and he sailed the Warham, and for his next boat, which will be his last dream boat, he's going big and going along the same design principles. But he's making changes as well. But there's not a lot of the boat that he's changing. Yeah, we put the TV on for you. There was wrestling on before. I'm sure you're all right into that. Yeah.
So, did we cover your things?
Yeah. How many of you are following Sailing Uma and watching what's going on in the... G'day, Mick. Good to see you.
Just came
Mick's in freezing Scandinavia somewhere. Are you in Norway or Sweden at the moment, Mick?
We're glad you called too, like us.
Yeah. So, yeah, how many of you are following Sailing Uma? How are they getting on with their electrification of their boat? I haven't had much of a chance to follow how things are going. I saw they've filled it up with lithium batteries just recently. You're in Sweden, great. And we had a question from a fellow just on the weekend about whether we'd go fully electric propulsion with Luckyfish. It's something that I do follow the technology, but at the moment it looks just totally cost prohibitive. It would probably cost us about... You do, Richard, yeah. Yeah, so they spend about like 13,000, I think, on Uma on the power plant, on the storage alone. Whatever they had to spend on controllers and battery monitoring systems, plus the electric motor itself. So, you know, I've done the calcs on doing it with Luckyfish, and it would be, if we did it off the shelf from Torpedo, it would be about $30,000. And it's really hard to justify that against, you know, the simplicity of 2 Yamaha outboards, you know. Sure, we've got to find fuel for them, but 30 grand, it's an inconvenience that we can live with. Hopefully manufacturing volumes and demand and competition is going to come into the whole electric marketplace now in the boating area. It's certainly coming in cars. I mean, we'd like to jump on it, but it's just the cost at the moment. Yeah, you're right, Robert. Ah, okay, good. We're all ears. Yeah, well, you're doing it with 3, aren't you? We're all ears, Robert.
Mick missed our good news.
Oh yeah, yeah, Mick. You might be wondering why they're talking about 3 people on Luckyfish. Can you guess?
There's a new crew coming. Are you interested?
Mick spent a couple of weeks, for those who don't know, he spent a couple of weeks with us on Luckyfish right at the end of the season last season in Exumas. And Mick brought some of his Scandinavian fishing skills with him.
We caught lots of fish together. Right?
Yeah, we did. We caught plenty fish.
After you left, I caught tons of barracudas.
Yes, yeah.
All day long, non-stop. It was terrible, I suppose.
Well, yeah. Si's muscles were like this, you know, from reeling in these fish day after day. She was unstoppable. Yeah, it is expensive, Terry. It's huge. I mean, lithium batteries just aren't getting down, you know. It's about $1,000 for 100 amp hours of storage now, plus all the electronics that come along with it to look after those expensive little babies. So propulsion's very different to house. You know, you're looking at a lot more storage if you're going to go propulsion, so the costs do add up. But to just do the house supply, and perhaps an induction stove and that sort of thing. It's still quite expensive, but they are remarkable batteries. I mean, their energy density is just fantastic, especially on cats. You can keep the weight down. Yeah, that's right, Terry. That's exactly why they're not taking off, and I think they're becoming reliable. That was probably the first issue they had to deal with. You know, the early ones that were around in the mid sort of 2004 or 5, they were starting to roll them out on some of the production boats just on a trial basis. Those ones failed. You know, they ripped them out and put in diesel power plants. But now there's more and more positive stories coming out for people that are using them.
Except electric. But prices are dropping.
Yeah, they are slowly coming down. Lithium are a good deal cheaper now than they were, but they're still very, very expensive.
For us,
I think Richard Uma got a deal, didn't they, from a battery supplier in Florida, from what I recall. And I think Gone with the Winds did as well. I read an account just the other day from someone who was at the yard at Just Catamarans when they were doing their refit, and there was just a long list of stuff that they were, I'm not sure, I won't say given, I don't know, but subsidised with on their refit of their boat before they took off. But really, in terms of sponsorship, unless someone like a manufacturer reaches out to you, your negotiating position to get assistance from cold calling them, from my experience, is not good. We're just not of that size to attract any interest from sponsors. So it would be all cash to do lithium. Yeah, more energy in a lithium battery than a stick of dynamite. True enough. Yeah. The lithium iron phosphate ones are pretty safe though, Richard. I'm sure you're aware of that. They've submerged them in salt water and shot bullets through them, and they're pretty stable chemistries. It's only these the lipos, the lithium polymer ones that we have in our mobile phones and RC aircraft and all that sort of thing. Those things can sort of have runaway combustion. The pod goes from side to side on Tolfia. I don't understand that, Robert. Yeah, I'll be curious to see some photos. I didn't notice on the ones that you sent me. Now, Ran, they've got an aluminium boat, right, Richard?
Right.
I don't follow their channel. I hear really good things about it, but gosh, there's just too many out there. But I understand they had a custom alloy mono built, yeah? Yeah, you connected port and starboard hulls with the pod. That's interesting. We were on a narrow, which we've got a video on it actually to come. A really nice narrow that was built 40 years ago. It's a 40-foot Warram for those that don't know. We met them in the Bahamas, and Larry and Connie, and he built it 40 years ago. They're still sailing it. They go down to the Bahamas every year, and their boat, after building it to plan, he then did something similar to you're talking about, Robert. He connected, he took a little bit of the sides, the inside of the hulls out, and bridge housed across.
So it's all one room,
yeah, so it was all
see from one hull to other hull, and then you can have a big, what is it? Double?
Double bed, yeah.
Double,
I mean,
double bed in the middle.
yeah, Larry and Connie had a really good marriage. They dedicated their entire bridge house to a double bed sort of main cabin area on a 40-foot cat, so you can imagine it was quite sumptuous.
Richard said it was a remaining van.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so, well, I think we covered pretty much what we were wanting to cover, unless there's any questions. We figured it would be about an hour, this, but we are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and happy to take any questions. The main thing was we wanted to get our announcement out to you about the new crew member, but Mick hasn't come back and given us his guess yet. Perhaps he's gone. Got him started on fishing and batteries, I see, and took his mind off the question. Zaya's pregnant, Mick.
He's gonna say, "Why are you telling me?"
What a bigger crew. Ah, yes. Yeah, we better, Andy. Well, we wanted to tell you first, you see. So, we didn't want you finding out any other way.
So, what is next?
Yeah, it is a bit like that, Terry. I guess we are. We're shockers, actually. We do stay up till late.
Latest one, I suppose, right?
1 o'clock often, yes. Yeah.
Was just waiting for it.
Yeah, well, he's going to be an interesting blend. East meets west.
He's gonna have his nose.
Yeah.
Nice. Giant nose. I can lay down one also.
You're a night owl, Terry, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how good it is, actually. It's funny, it's a very different lifestyle in the apartment in Mongolia to our lifestyle on the boat. 9 o'clock in the evening, we are shattered. Mick will testify to this.
On the boat.
Robert would know the story. They call it Sailor's Midnight, and yeah, that's the sun goes down and you're hitting the pillow. It's a great life, you know. That's one of the wonderful things. But you really feel like you've got the most out of a day when you hit the pillow so tired. Sure, you all know with that feeling. But yeah, we don't expend a lot of energy here, and I guess you do on a boat, so you don't have that feeling of being physically drained.
Mick.
Oh, I see, Mick.
Grandfather.
Right. Okay. Well done.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Boy or girl, Mick? That's true, Richard. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's dark out there at 9 in the morning. Yeah. So I wouldn't know.
I slipped away. Thanks for the messages.
Right. Yeah, that's clever, Robert. That's all the trick. Yeah. Your boy from your daughter. Okay, grandfather and a grandson. Well, that's wonderful. You'll be able to teach him all your bush skills, Mick, guiding and so forth. Well, we are really looking forward to getting the season of videos out to you. I think even though we were still shooting on our phones, I mean the colours, I think you'll get a feeling for it. I know I read comments about other channels and how the Bahamas has been done to death by sailing channels, so we will be scratching our heads on how to give it our own twist, so we're not just going to the pigs and all the rest of it. I hear there's a real pushback from viewers, they're sick of it, but I'm sure we can find a whole lot of other angles, mostly through the eyes of the wonderful people that we had on the boat, and we'll try and tell the story through their eyes, or find our own angles on it. But it'll all be shot against that beautiful background. That's unavoidable, and it's I could never tire of it, to be honest.
Is it true? Mick says delays about 2 minutes now.
Yeah, quite possibly right, Mick. Don't know why. There must be a transmission thing. We did quite a few tests before we tried this tonight, and we couldn't overcome the delay. 2 minutes seems very long, though. It's getting worse. Swimming pigs are overrated, yeah. Yeah, good point, Terry. Yeah, Zaya, that's a question for you.
Have you thought about how you will teach your child both of your respective languages? Do you guys speak any other language? No, we only speak English and Mongolian, so the baby will just learn while he's growing.
Yeah, I think the baby's just going to absorb two languages.
Longest I speak Mongolian to him.
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
will speak your own.
Yeah, I might learn a bit of Mongolian.
Yeah, I know few people with kid growing with similar parents.
Yes.
Yeah, they do just learn. You don't need to work hard for it. It just picks up.
Yeah, they're little sponges, aren't they? I think that probably won't be an issue. Yeah, we've got quite a few friends here with grown-up kids who speak. Well, look at Zaya version 2, for example. She's fluent, absolutely fluent in English, as you know, and of course in Mongolian is her native language. Yeah, well.
Internet connection is about 100.
So come May, we'll be looking for any help with changing nappies, if there's any volunteers. That's another question for you from Terry.
Mongolian is such an interesting language. That is the region related in any way to Chinese or Russian? Not related to any of them, any of those two, but there's some words adapted from them later on, so.
Yeah, from what I've read,
they have long history, so we created our own language, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's like anything. I think in is it the Sami people in Scandinavia? There may be some relationship with them. I think the linguists would have us believe that. But it doesn't have any affinity with any other languages as far as I know. But the Russians did introduce the Cyrillic alphabet here, which changed the pronunciation of some of the words. They did away with the old Mongol script. If you've ever seen that, it's absolutely beautiful. It's a vertical, sort of very ornate, scrolly writing. Still people here who keep that alive, and quite a lot of the Mongolians can still read it, surprisingly enough.
Richard says, Mongolian written with Chinese characters? Nope, it's not. I think lots of people confused with the Inner Mongolian to Mongolia. So Inner Mongolia is China took from us small bits of Mongolia and they didn't give it back. So it's part of us, but not the main Mongols, you know.
Yeah, it's quite shrewd how the Chinese...
But China never says that, so they can make up anything.
They write their own history. Yeah, it's very shrewd what the Chinese did with Inner Mongolia. You know, it was signed over, I think, as part of the post-World War One peace treaties between Russia and China. But they, in order to sort of acclimatise the locals to the Chinese culture, they rounded up all the Mongolian men.
Which the Inner Mongolia they took at that time.
Yeah, and they offered them work, you know, which was, I guess, tempting. So they took the men that were of working and also breeding age out of Inner Mongolia and moved them into mainland China and had them involved in big agricultural and construction projects.
Or just kill it or prison or, you know, just disappears. Yeah,
the ones who resisted disappeared. It's very similar to what they are doing in the western part of China at the moment with the Uyghurs, if you're following any of that. Bit of an untold story. It's coming out in the Western press a bit more now about the number of people that are disappearing. But they're doing it, it was just kind of like an ethnic cleansing process where you displace all the men and then of course the women are left behind and they haven't got any help on the farms. So the Chinese generously, you know, provide Chinese men to move into the villages and help out around the home, normally as home help initially. Mm-hmm. It happens over a very long period of time, and of course, you know, trysts develop between the women whose men are away and the gardeners and the people who've been sent to help out, and then over time the population become sort of Chinese.
So
and that's sort of the history of Inner Mongolia, and the Mongolians view the Inner Mongolians in a certain way and the Chinese view them in a certain way, but it's a result of this history.
Yeah, they even though some Inner Mongolians trying to stay Mongolian as much as they can, but it's heavily mixed and culturally, what's the word for it?
Repressed or held down.
So it's hard for them to be Mongolian, so they also, now they're a couple of generations past, so they probably have a Chinese father and mother, you know. So it's they're becoming more Chinese, I suppose. So came to that topic. So many people
too long ago, yeah. Probably right, Mick. Yeah, nice one, Johnny. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. The whole Chinese thing's fascinating, and being right here and amongst it all's just, I really cherish the whole Mongolian freedom. I really see it as a massive asset of this place. As you know, this is the only democracy in Central Asia, and it's a successful democracy. It's a young one, and it would be a real shame to see the people lose that. Politicians over the years have been very cunning and kept two big neighbours out, and I hope it remains that way. But geopolitically, it's really tough at the moment. There's a lot going on. The new president in the US has openly said that he's not interested in helping this part of the world any longer, which has left a bit of a vacuum. And Mongolia has this thing called the third neighbour policy, which has been very good for maintaining that democracy here, and also the sense of freedom and the fact that we can have this conversation on whatever software we're using, which would all be heavily regulated in China if we were just a few hundred miles south of here. There's a lot that could be lost if Mongolia doesn't play its cards right going forward. So they have good relationships with Japan and Korea and the US and Germany.
Russia.
And Russia, of course, yes. So that's all part of the third neighbour policy, reaching out to other countries diplomatically and in the form of foreign aid, so they don't just get sucked into that Chinese vacuum. They are really, really anxious to get in here. In fact, 20 years ago, whoever the Premier of China, he went on the record back then saying, they have three sort of ambitions. First one, Hong Kong. Second one, Taiwan. Third one, Mongolia. So, and you're just seeing now Xi Jinping making announcements over the weekend about Taiwan, which is really disturbing. And then the Taiwanese Premier coming out today and saying that she's looking at domestic arms production. That's how seriously they take it. So, yeah, this part of the world's a little bit destabilised with America pulling back.
Richard saying based previous Mongolian videos.
Yeah, too true, Richard. You'll have to come here and experience, all of you should. It's wonderful. There's a real openness in the people, which is just so beautiful. It really hits you as an expat when you come here. You walk down the street, and in the West we kind of look and glance at the stranger and then we look away. Here, it's an open face like that, It's a little bit off-putting, but it's just open and honest, and there's nothing, no malice. It's a curiosity, and it's lovely. It's innocence, Yeah, okay, Richard, yeah. So, Robert, I saw a note there about Boatsmith. Oh, man, that's so kind. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to change Luckyfish that much, though. We've kind of got it right now. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're only talking about a baby this big. It doesn't mean, that's not really the catalyst to go to a larger catamaran. I think it's a product of a whole lot of things, why we're even entertaining the thought. And not the least part of it is just more cabin space for guests. And, yeah, just taking on that kind of a project next. I guess we feel like we want to evolve. Well, I do. I feel like I want to sort of evolve a bit.
To the next stage?
Yes. Yeah, next stage, yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? I think it's a human trait, We get things right and we start feeling comfortable, but we're never really content. It's a miserable condition.
It's a boy, Mick. Right?
Yeah.
5 months.
Yeah, due in May, Mick.
Hanging pot.
Yeah,
What's
nice.
cradle?
Cradle, like for the baby.
Ah, yeah.
They actually do have that here. They hang them in the gur, bit of string over the rafters,
It's with sheepskin and stuff though, so we better leave that.
They do this thing called swaddling here. You might have seen it in Russia. They do it here also. They get the babies and they put them in a straitjacket like this when they're really small. I always thought it looks like an act of absolute child cruelty, but I don't know, maybe I'll have to do some adjustments. It's all about, I guess the baby's used to being in a very confined space at the moment, so...
No, baby sister didn't.
She didn't?
Yeah, she
okay.
only did it when the baby goes to sleep, before baby goes to sleep at night. Baby likes it with
wrapped up tight, yeah.
Not that tight, but...
They don't have prams here, all babies are always carried either in a harness or just in the arms. Very unusual. The pavements aren't really up to prams anyway. They need to be sort of fat tyres and all-terrain. Yeah, I agree, Mick. I reckon too. May's a special month. Yes, that's right, Andy. That's right. And they do walk their babies, when it's -20 outside. And of course, having them wrapped up in 4 inches of blankets and sheepskin is, yeah, it's a necessity. Yeah, we try. It's actually quite a nice release for, I think, both of us, certainly for me, to be editing video and looking at those lovely sailing scenes when outside it's sort of cold. But cold's not too bad. Actually, you know what? I prefer the snow and the ice to rain. I mean, England and its drizzle, you can have that. You can cope with cold. We just wear our warmest clothes and you can go outside, double everything, It's not too bad, but rain and slushes, and that's no fun.
Next week or so, you're gonna do the dog sledding, right?
Yeah. We're going to go dog sledding soon. Unfortunately, Zaya can't. She'll probably just drive along and meet us at the end, but that'll be a bit of fun. There's a place about 40 odd kilometres out of UB, maybe a bit more. It's a sort of a touristic area with a gur camp and quite a major dog sledding operation out there, something like 100 dogs. So yeah, we're just looking into that
husky
now.
Dogs,
Mm.
Snow huskies.
That could be fun if we can get out there on a sunny day. I mean, it's going to be very cold, but it should make for some really pretty video, I hope. Blue skies and icicles and all that. And these beautiful dogs, that are adapted to living in this climate.
How many dogs need to carry?
They need to give me a few more dogs now than they did a few months ago. Is it, Mick? Yeah, well, it'd be a first for me, that's for sure. How to bring the kid in the tacker-cat?
Huh?
I'm not with you on that one, Mick. We left the tacker-cat with the boat.
Kid in the tacker-cat.
Yeah, I guess you mean just like ferrying the boy around and yeah, no issue.
He will just float in.
Yeah, we'll lash him to a fender. That's good. All right.
Right, shall we last question and wrap it up?
Yeah. Well, we'd love to take any more questions if you have any. Maybe we could just leave you watching Mongolian television. Ah, yes. Yeah.
Robert wants us to give Luckyfish, isn't he?
Yeah, Robert.
He's saying
Yeah, good on you,
should
Robert. Well,
modify it and give it.
yeah. Listening, Robert, listening. Adult beverages in Mongolia.
What adult beverage?
Yeah, it's mostly vodka these days, but their traditional drinks are fermented milk of cow or camel, horse particularly. They do a ferment which is like a beer. It's like a fizzy milk. I've actually developed a taste for it. It's taken years. But if you can imagine sort of bubbly yogurt, warm, with about sort of, I don't know, probably maybe about a 5% kick. But it takes a bit of getting used to, you know. So that's called ereg, and they sell that on the side of the roads, particular times of the year. Not now, of course. So fermented horse milk is a traditional alcoholic drink.
If you ever come here, we can give you some horse milk.
Absolutely. We promise to give you some horse milk. And then if you go into the countryside, like for example, Zaya's dad does this, and most families do. They ferment. They do a double distillation on the ereg. They have a still, and it makes a weak vodka.
Homemade vodka.
Homemade vodka, yeah. And they drink that.
It tastes weak, but you can get drunk.
Yeah. But then, of course, there's big breweries here too. You know, there's 3 or 4 major breweries. They do a very good beer called Chinggis. Wonderful beer. They also, of course, make their own vodkas of varying qualities, I can tell you. That's one example where you don't buy on price if you value your life.
Terry's asking how the Mongolian TV. Do you have a cable?
Yeah, we've got a basic. Well, it's all cable here, but we've got a basic connection. We don't watch a lot of TV, but we've just started to get into Game of Thrones again, though, which could be a bit of a problem. We left it about 3 years ago, up to about season 4 or something.
3 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah. No, we haven't said when we're going back to Luckyfish, Mick. We're not really sure. We would like to try and squeeze in a couple of months this season, but that would mean having to do it in the next couple of months before Zaya's, just not able to fly. But I think that's probably unlikely. More likely it'll be October, and that may just be me going there for a month to get the boat back in the water, do the work on it that I want to do on the wind jenny and so forth, and then have Zaya come down with the baby in November and right at the start of the season. That would be ideal. But yeah, so obviously the plans got changed a bit at the moment. Oh, the canoe guy is a bit of a sorry story at the moment, Mick. It's sort of a money issue. That's Edir. Yeah, he doesn't have any money, mate, so he can't go ahead and keep going on the work. He's a guide, as you know, for in the tourist season here, but the money doesn't last through the winter, which is not great. bit of a long story, but the canoe's on hold right now. He just lost his brother as well, so it's all sort of doom and gloom over there. Yeah.
So Robert saying,
Sorry to say, mate. Yeah. Good on you, Robert. Yeah.
read all the details what I want. Sherry's saying, how's Toya?
Toy's up at the village. You can tell me a bit about that if you like. Yeah, Mick, yeah.
Toya's not around with us. She's in countryside. 7 hours from here. She's working there and visited her life, so we barely meeting with her, right?
Yeah, we see her every few months, normally when she comes down here to UB. But yeah, she's sort of busy with her life up there now. She's expressed interest in coming back. She would come back sailing with us. I don't know, she's actually quite settled up there too.
But she's still single, yeah? Who's that better?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll bring some tonnage tools. Help you out with leaving in October. Well, if you would, Mick, why not? Be great. As long as we don't sit around talking all the time, though. Something we're guilty of, isn't it? Thanks for the offer. You know it'll be good, mate. Yeah.
Especially if I'm not around, that's a problem.
Yeah, building a Tiki 30. Don't put it past. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past her. She could do that, but no, it's she needs a partner with her to follow that dream. I think.
Cool.
Toya, she's not building a Tiki 30 that we know of.
It's a funny thing.
Yeah, no, it's not quite the same without her around, is it? Well, I think we'll have more of the Mongolian guests on board over time. They'll all bring their own sort of slant. Zyro version 2 certainly has. And there's a lot of other friends here that have expressed interest in going sailing, but of course if we are going to have guests on board, Robert, means we're going to have a bit of space for them. So yeah, I'm just wondering if we should ask you patrons something while we've got your undivided. It's a little bit difficult, really, isn't it? I mean, you're all such wonderful people. You accept virtually anything that we publish, and you continue to support us, and I can't tell you what that means. I just wrote a post on one of the sailing Facebook pages this afternoon, just saying that the real untold story of all these sailing YouTube channels out there are the patrons themselves, and that's you guys. And I say that because I think it's remarkable that people willingly pay good money for something that they can take for free. And when I first heard of Patreon, 4 years ago or so, about 2015 it was, I was stunned. I thought, well, what is all this? Why? How does it work? Why would it work? For what possible reason would this work? And it wasn't until I threw some money at, the first time I did it in the sailing area was, his name slipped my mind. He produced 2 feature-length sailing films for Nix. He's now down in Panama. Perhaps some of you guys might know of him. He's quite active in social media. And I sent him $20 or something as PayPal. And after I did that, I felt a lot closer to him and what he did. And we communicated for a while. We kept in touch over a couple of years, actually. And it was a real game changer. And since then, when I see someone who's done something that's helped me, I often just go to PayPal, and even if it's just a couple of dollars, if they've got something there, just to say thanks. And it makes you feel, when you use that service again, whatever it may be, that you're a part of it, and so you do get something back, a much more, I guess, a feeling of cooperation, which is nice. So I understand why you do it. I'm really grateful for it, but I think a lot of other people haven't really got it yet. Perhaps it'll get that way. Also, I'm also quite excited about it as an alternative revenue model as well, rather than going around sort of selling things and doing exchange like that. Just to have someone voluntarily support a service, that's quite remarkable. Could be a bit of a game changer if we can allow it to grow, if enough people get behind it.
Of course, we won't be just taking it. Eventually, we would like to give back more as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That's interesting. I mean, I see our 80 odd patrons who support us now. I see you guys as a very loyal core group of people who do this for no reward other than the videos that we produce, and that's remarkable. But to grow in terms of patronage, it seems that you need to go out and offer a reward, and that's when it kind of starts to change a little bit. Then it becomes it's no longer just a straight out tip, or money in the mug for the busker, which is where it's at the moment with us. And that's a fabulous relationship. I think if you take it to another level, the relationship does change a little bit. So I do see you guys as a very special group.
Thank you, therefore.
Yeah, well, no, they've all gone shy now, have they? No.
Andy said.
Yeah, that's about right, Mick. Yeah. Until about when? Well, the whole season, right up to about May, I would say. Don't know, too far ahead to plan, but we're still going to stick around in the Caribbean or up the east coast of the US. So that plan's still on the go. If you remember, we were planning to go up maybe as far as New York when we first got into the Caribbean, and we spent a wonderful season hanging around Florida instead. So, yeah.
Andy said.
So either way, the hurricane season or summering over up in North America. For instance, I stopped supporting SLV when they got the cat. This is Andy, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's a different relationship, Andy, I know. Absolutely. Right. Yeah, interesting there, Richard. Yep. Yeah, that's great that you guys are helping us understand it. Yeah, well, that's true, Terry. We wouldn't do it if we didn't enjoy it, though. It is, yeah, it's inspiring both ways. It's the community that's the wonderful thing. And it was the thing that drew me back into sailing. That's what I missed when throwing in a career and all the rest of it. Best job I ever had. But, walked away from it. And it was because the people I was interacting in my career weren't the people that I was missing, that I learned to meet through sailing right from a young age, through all the different love affairs I've had with sailing over the years. It's those people in that fraternity that you meet that I was missing. Instead, I was sitting around meeting tables talking to hedge fund managers and investors and miners and people with loads of money that still wanted more. I thought, well, goodness, there's got to be more to life than this. And there I was, 54, and I thought, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life, Could have. Would have been cushy. So, you know, that's why this relationship that we've learned about through Patreon, but also through the, you know, the wonderful people that you guys meet through our videos, the people that we meet along the way, oh, that's so much more rewarding, you know, way to spend your days, I think. How about the nav lights in the engine? Not fixed, Mick. No, waiting for me to return, or you. A bit easier now that it's out of the water. We'll get onto that outboard problem. Oh, that's nice, Terry. Wow. Yeah, that's wonderful. Isn't that great? That's really special, mate. Likewise, you know, you learn something every day, right? And it's, thank goodness for YouTube, you know, I just absolutely love it. I really do. I think it's such a marvellous tool, you know. Where would we be without it? You know, we'd have cable and mainstream media and all the rest of it would be lost. No, it's a marvellous thing. In the right hands. What are your views, if I could fire a question at you, what are your views on saturation of sailing stories, sailing videos? Has it become saturated? Is there still room out there to continue, you know, putting out, when are all the thumbnails and the titles going to be finished with? You know, wreck on a reef and oh no, the toilet's blocked, and are you ever going to tire of it? I know I am. I think we need to think a bit more outside the box, keep the sailing genre alive, you know. We're actually putting a bit of thought into that too. Really, Nick? Hey, welcome, Nick.
Who's Nick?
Nick is he's been a patron with us for some time. Yeah, well, Nick, share your research, please. We'd love to know what you're up to. Yeah, wow.
Islander.
Yeah, if you can get an Islander 55, would you think about building it, or are you looking on second-hand market? Not many of them built. A few nice ones around though. I suppose you know all about Thierry in Japan. Beautiful boat. I see he's just posted a new YouTube video today too. Go See Camping is the website. Two-way advantage from most. Yeah, I reckon all the action's in the comments section as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll often go to a video, doesn't matter if it's sailing or any other sort of topic of interest, and read the comments. Normally find out if I want to watch the video or not.
I think lots of people do.
You don't watch many sailing videos right now. I go on waves. Oh, I see. Cooking minute. Yeah, it does go in waves. You're right. Yeah, I think we're very fortunate to have all this information available, given freely, you know. I mean, where else would we have learned how to edit video if it wasn't for other people's YouTube videos?
Something unique.
Yeah.
Parrot.
Yeah, renewable energy excites me, Richard. The rest of them look a bit gimmicky. Got to be something we believe in. I could go for a cat though. I'm a bit of a cat lover. But renewable energy, I think that's the holy grail, isn't it? It's living on the hook, being completely self-sufficient for propulsion as well as all your energy needs on the boat. Yeah, that would be a marvellous place to get to, not only in sharing video, but also just to get to that spot. Because I think we've seen places now where we would like to just stay for a few months, fill the boat up with dried goods and catch what we can. You'll have to build it, right. Yeah, well, Nick, you should just, we should talk about this because, you know, the island is only permissible to be built by a professional, as you're probably aware, but that avenue's coming to an end. So, you know, if you're really serious about it, we should have a chat, make sure you can get the plans to do it. There's a saturation of all kinds of channels. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, that's good to hear, Terry, but oh, look, I've got a load of respect for Dallas, probably more than any of the channels out there. I think they're remarkable what they've done. And they seem like reasonable folks, you know. It hasn't all gone to their head. But it's going to be fascinating what they do next, you know, with their so-called Dallas 2. I think it will be big, pretty full on. Yeah, Nick. Yeah, well, drop me an email. I'll dig out yours and we'll start exchanging.
So I think they use Shopify, so we need to wrap it.
Yeah. Well, we can wrap it up. I'm happy. I'm still full of beans, but maybe we should put you guys out of your misery. I don't know if you're here just staying on, being polite to entertain us. Yeah, it is, Mick. Great idea. Travel agency. Expand on that, Andy. You know, the interacting with other sailing channels is great. We've got some ideas on that. Maybe not sailing channels though. Right, yeah. You notice how we're leaving music out of the last few videos? I'm actually quite enjoying doing that. I think it's a bit more authentic in some ways. I like the music pieces. I like doing the little musical montages, especially when, you know, Sire's doing something nice in slow motion for the camera. But you know, if you leave it out and just let if we can record some reasonable audio, I think it's better for the viewer that they get more of a sense of, you know, the authenticity of being on the boat. So music can be overdone, that's for sure. What do you mean by travel agency, Andy? Ah, that's interesting, Terry. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, well, because it's not... Well, Sire's really not into Western music or some of those music deals that might be going on behind the scenes. And I'm sort of past that. You know, I'd rather sit down and listen to a bit of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, you know. I think all those licenses are already well gone. So so we don't really get into the. For me, it's an effort to find music that isn't copyrighted, and I still get my fingers burnt. We have to sign back up with Epidemic Sounds again if we're going to use music on any sort of scale. I enjoy putting in a little bit of Mongolian music when the situation's right, but I thought the copyright laws were pretty lax, but I got burned on a couple of Mongolian songs as well, so I have to be very careful. Yeah, interesting, Andy. Yeah, you know, it's crossed our minds.
Yeah.
It
has to be a bigger boat.
It would have to be a bigger boat, but also, really, to make that work, we'd need to be in Thailand.
Yeah, because distance is too far from Mongolians.
Thailand or the Philippines. Thailand's the easiest place to access from Mongolia to keep the airfares down for locals to go and experience sailing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Actually, lots of people goes to Thailand, especially at this time of the year.
yeah,
So that would be
it's
good.
it's certainly it's on our minds, but we you know, Thailand's a fair way down the track. Yeah, right, Richard. It's great. I know. I checked that out. Finally, that second link that you sent me, Richard, really good. They were in the dinghy going across the bay, and there was another dinghy in the distance, and you could sort of look down and look up. You find yourself spinning around on your chair, though. It's a bit like virtual reality, isn't it? You're the one having fun, but to anyone else watching, it looks a bit weird. If you're on your own, it's 360, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There was, I think it was Follow the Boat did it. It was rather good. Richard sent the link. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, we're kind of enamoured with the Caribbean right now, and it's a real issue because of the cost of getting there. It's on the absolute other side of the world from Mongolia.
And it goes through America, so someone,
Yeah.
even though going to Caribbean, for example, Bahamas, they have to have a American visa and stuff. So that's another problem. Not all of them can get the visa.
Yeah. Yeah, there's you know, there's some pretty stringent. We in the West, we don't get exposed to any of these issues, but it's a real eye-opener when you travel with someone who got to show a bank statement of what your financial worth is, a letter from the employer to show that you're capable of supporting yourself for the 3 weeks that you're going on holiday to be in the country. You're not going to become an overstay risk. I mean, there are a lot of immigration headwinds for folks, and it looks like in Britain right now, I just heard of a case which is no doubt played out hundreds of times, where, you know, people are stuck in the EU, and if the Brexit thing goes through, there's going to be husband and wives who can't conjoin in the UK. You know, they're going to remain separated, simply because, you know, the partner or the wife or the husband can't show, you know, a bank statement with sufficient savings to come into the UK, even though they're married. So, you know, that's a bother. I mean, the whole border security thing drives you spare when you're on the receiving end of it.
Richard saying everyone can get seasick.
Hey Laramie, welcome. I think Laramie is probably our first patron and probably one of our first viewers, so yeah, very special welcome to Laramie. You wouldn't miss a live, would you? We don't do them very often. It's great. Yeah, massive thanks to you, Laramie. We'll certainly put this up on YouTube publicly, mates, because I think you've missed the lion's share of it. The news is Zaya's pregnant. Still. Baby is due in May. Righto, Richard. Hey, thanks for joining us. Much appreciated. Well, yeah, as far as the camera stuff goes, you know, we'd love to explore a lot more.
Yeah, we've been 2 hours.
But we're also really happy that we've been able to build something around cell phones, you know. But I think we've got to, you know, put that behind us and move on, especially when I look at some of the other channels and the quality of their videography. Might be time to up our game a bit. But anyway, yeah, night-night, Richard. Sleep well.
Stop in Texas, I will pick you up.
Yeah, well, wouldn't that be great? Zaya spent a bit of time in Texas. She knows it better than I do.
I love Texan beef brisket.
She loves Texan beef brisket, if you didn't hear that. That might mean something to you. It sounds pretty scrumptious. Yeah, good, Nick. Well, look, let's communicate, Nick. I mean it. I'm happy to, help in any way I can.
Brexit will.
Yeah, I don't know, Terry. Yeah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? It's I think if they went back and did another referendum in England, I suspect that the Leavers might turn out in larger numbers, because when they held the first referendum, no one really gave Brexit a chance, in the same way that no one really gave the President of the US a chance at the election. So if you go back to the people now with Brexit, they might turn out in even larger numbers. And I think, any of the Remainers are probably aware of that. It's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, what's going on in the world? Great state of flux on so many fronts. Yeah. You mean like tell the Brexiteers to watch our YouTube channel? Thought has crossed my mind. Nice baby bump. Ah, that's sweet, Banjo.
That's learn.
Yeah. Brisket is a religion. Oh, I could become a convert. I presume it's is it a slow roasted beef thing? It seems to be what Texas is famous for. I watched some of the food shows. Thailand. Yeah. Cheap place to build a boat in wood. Cheap place to fit a boat out in timber. Great craftsmanship. Slow and low, yeah, right. Wonderful. Yeah. So I think we answered my question about the saturation. Sort of. The only thing that tires me about it is just seeing the same sensationalist titles and thumbnails, but I'll let you in. I'm sure you work this out anyway, but from our point of view, when we invest the time into editing a video, we don't really do the thumbnail and the title thing first, which is really what you should do. It's where you should invest your time if you want to expand your story and your channel and all that. We the way I plough into it is I get into the video and then I look for the story, and then we sort of get the story out, and then at the end of it we go, well, what are we going to call it, and have we got a thumbnail for it? And it's all wrong, because with YouTube you do judge a book by its cover, so we should be putting more time into that. But so we could call it what it is, or we could give it a bit of a twist, or we could really go out there and exaggerate. That's the decision you make. And you look back and you say, well, God, I've just spent several days putting this thing together. Really would like as many people to see it as possible. What are we going to do? Zaya is this thumbnail. What do you think of this thumbnail? Poor Zaya, she gets a bit tired of being on the thumbs all the time, so we try and mix it up. But when I see a clickbaity title and a thumb, nothing turns me off more. But we are guilty of putting a bit of a twist on it ourselves at times. We try and do it in a tasteful way, or a clever way, but it's bloody hard. But it's a tough playing field. YouTube's really hard to get surfaced now. It's become, just in my view, really saturated, not just in sailing, but just, I tried to work it out recently, how much video is getting uploaded versus what the growth of YouTube viewership is, and it's something like 20-fold more online video storage being added by Google annually versus growth in viewers. 20-fold. So every year it gets 20 times harder to be seen effectively. You don't really hear that statistic much, but as far as I can see, that's fact. So having built, you know, like a loyal group of followers, we're so grateful for our 13,000 subscribers and our patrons. You know, I feel that's a real accomplishment. And, you know, we'll just go on trying to do what we do and try and build on that. We're kind of happy with sort of low linear growth. I don't think we're looking for the big hit that's going to punch it out of the park. But we're quite happy just to continue growing the way we are. If we can do that against a field that's getting 20 times harder annually, then we should feel pretty happy. Yeah, I hear you, Nick. It is amazing. We just take it for granted, though. Human beings, we just absorb new innovations and treat them like, it's the norm within days. And then we complain when they don't work.
Nick's saying, and he talks about growing veggies on board. We're thinking of growing veggies on land, though.
Yeah. It's doable. I think for herbs, fresh herbs, it's definitely doable. I mean, we did it for quite a few months last year. In fact, we gave our surviving plants away at the end of the season to a lady in Guatemala. So, and that was nice. I mean, who invariably cooks on board, would go to those fresh herbs, every night, prune a bit, and it would go into our meals. So, yeah, I mean, that's a fun side to it. You can do it. Got to keep them out of the wind and keep them well watered. But there's all sorts of solutions out there. If you can dedicate a little bit of sheltered space to vertical planters and that sort of thing, you could probably grow a lot more than just, herbs. You may be able to grow lettuces and tomatoes and that sort of thing.
Lettuce grows fast, doesn't it?
Lettuce grows fast. There's hydroponics. I don't know, we obviously haven't had time. We're working on a lot of other things with the boat, but, that would be a logical area to get into, getting a little bit of fresh produce growing on board. Heck, get a chicken, Nick. There's a fellow who does have a chicken. He gets an egg every day from it.
That's fun.
Maybe not all year round, because they go off the lay, don't they? But you might have seen the French guy that's getting around with a chicken.
Sailing with chicken.
Sailing with a chicken.
Better than your cat, you're thinking.
Better than the cat,
Makes
yeah. Yeah, headline. It's interesting, what we're seeing with our videos now is that we get about 7,000 views in a week, and that's it. The video will sit there then for the rest of its life, maybe pick up a few hundred views, every week or two after that. And it's like there's this 7,000 people out there who to me, they feel like they're the same people. So we're not really... And we grow a little bit. Of course, that is sort of slowly growing, but so I kind of wonder. It doesn't matter about the thumbnail or the title. It's the same folks. They're going to watch it. They enjoy the story. That's it. We don't need to really. There's not really a lot to be gained by, stripping all our clothes off and running around naked. That might be the death of the channel. Who's a great poster girl for Luckyfish? Who do you mean, Laramie? Yeah. So, in some ways I'd like to say, well, look, this is how we crossed the Gulf Stream. Boom, there's the title. And for anyone genuinely interested in finding out how we went across the Gulf Stream, kind of considerations that we made, that's the video for them. But then you've got this fear that, putting on a realistic title and a realistic thumbnail on a video might just crash. You put it out there, and of course, who's going to click on that? We don't want to find out anything. We want to be entertained. I don't know. If you knew the psychology of why we click on thumbnails, then you'd probably be a very wealthy man or woman. But I know bikinis work. That's a bit of a no-brainer. I always think it's funny that Google pay thousands of software engineers to design this amazing algorithm that, you know, draws in 800 million bits of information off every video when it gets published, or so they like us to believe. And in the end of the day, all it is sex sells, you know. I mean, that's been the way for thousands of years.
Something to do with you guys. So.
Something to do with us guys, yeah. Yeah, yeah, the bondage one. You know, Zaya and I edited that first few minutes together. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, yeah, right, Mick. But the whole world's not like you, mate. I'm probably with you on that too, you know. I'd be the same, I hope. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. We've got a little bit of the courage of our convictions, you know. We're not really willing to sell out. Try and keep the story honest and keep the information of some value, hopefully. Keep it a little bit educational, a little bit entertaining.
Headline, mixing.
Yeah.
Title?
Yeah, you kind of know, that when you're being baited, especially if you know the channel. Especially if you know the channel. It's lots of funny things. But yeah, well, you know, there's a bunch of really good channels out there, that's for sure. I think that are really trying to offer good content. You know, Mick's turned me on to a few actually, guys. You follow quite a few, don't you, Mick? And I've got to say, just about every channel, Mick, that you told me about in Bahamas, I have got onto them and enjoyed them, you know. And one of them I haven't thanked you for is SV Seeker, Doug Jackson, who I've corresponded with since you mentioned him, because I think what he's doing is just remarkable. He's building a 74-foot steel junk in his front garden in Oklahoma. He's been doing it for about 8 or 9 years, and it's very much an internet-inspired cooperative in some ways. It's, yeah, quite something. And you know, I used to look at the rankings on the YouTube channels, and I used to see this SV Seeker rusty junk thing at the top. I thought, you know, there they were right up there with the big 2 or 3 sailing channels, and I thought, what on earth is that all about, you know? A steel junk, for goodness sake. But of course it's not about the boat. I think it's about Doug himself. He's a remarkable man, you know, and he produces great videos, guys. If you haven't looked, don't worry about the junk. Go and check him out. I think his junk would be pretty remarkable too, you know, of course, by association.
It's big, right? How big?
Yeah, big, yeah. It's a ship.
How long is it?
30 or 40 tonne or something. But he's getting it done, and he's going off on these side tracks. Like, he spent a year building a remote operated vehicle, you know, a submarine thing for doing research, underwater research. Perhaps you guys know all about him. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right, Terry. It's over. We're spoiled for choice, absolutely. But you know, there's 7.5 billion people in the world. And the remarkable thing is, you know, pick up a camera and tell a story, and I think everyone has an audience. Yeah, well, Mick, that's used to be true, that a title represented the chances of YouTube serving you up that as a solution, as a result in your search. But I actually, I do follow some of the Creator Studio stuff, and they had their search and discovery team on one of their videos recently, and straight out of their mouth they said meta tags are finished with. They're following the public, and the public click on title and thumbnail primarily, and that's how Google search now sort of classifies a video. I don't know how they do it, but around an image and around the title. That's 95% of the result in search is coming out of thumbnail and title, not out of meta tags, which used to be where all the content of the video would be inputted by the creator. We write these meta tags, and it's Gulf Stream, it's Bahamas, it's Florida, whatever. And if someone's searching for a sailboat to go and do that, we might rank in the top 3 pages or something. That video might, but no longer. So that's pretty sad. So Google are kind of being driven by, or YouTube is being driven by popularity rather than serving up perhaps good quality results,
Can I have a question for you?
You could have a question for me.
What's the worst comment you ever had?
Worst comment? That's a good question, isn't it? Well, the worst comment would have to be the one that hurt the most, right? So it mightn't necessarily be a bad comment, it just hurt. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. We've had surprisingly few. It's been amazing. I think we've banned from the channel, I don't know, might all be the same person, but probably about 3 or 4 names.
That's the one called Tedster was funny, wasn't
Ted
it?
Tedster, he used to
Wouldn't leave us, but wouldn't.
Ted Tedster, Dan, Alicia. See, I remember their names. It's terrible, isn't it? A couple of bad ones. But it may be the same person, you don't know. But yeah, they seem to have given up now. I only really ban someone if they are sort of racist or are sexually insulting or something like that. And there's very few. But the hurtful ones, no, not really hurtful. No, it's been good. I mean, I guess you could have your pride knocked a bit, but that's education, so I try and treat it as value, contributing commentary. Most people are really constructive. It's wonderful. There's a really happy place in our comments on our videos. I don't know if you guys notice, but there's a really happy place there. Wonderful people genuinely trying to contribute, and it's nice,
I know which one was hurtful.
Who? Oh, come on. So you asked me this question and you already knew the answer. Who was it?
No, I just remembered one. I don't know who was it, but the one someone said your nose hair is annoying.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true, you see. Yeah, that one is hurtful, and he's right. I've got a terrible habit of holding the camera, you're supposed to hold the camera up there. Yeah. I've gone quiet now. You shut me up, you see. Yeah, right, Terry. Absolutely. It's neat. Oh, really? Yeah, well, Laramie, I don't know, you missed out on the first part of this video. We're thinking about trying to get a boat with a bit more cabin space, so we can share it with guests and patrons.
Or family and friends. Right?
Because the sharing side's, that's kind of a lot of fun. That's what we learned this season, was having guests on board, apart from Mick.
Why are you saying that?
Yeah. So, well, Mick's the only guest that's turned up, which is a bit disappointing, actually. I'm sure they're all busy.
Joe, when
Well, Joe, I know. I felt like I should have sent him a special email because I know he doesn't check social media much. But Joe's coming up. He'll be in the video soon. And Marcel, of course, he's in next week's. Marcel and Natida, his wife, and their son. There are. We had 5 on board.
That was interesting family.
Mm.
The Marcel himself is Dutch, right?
Yeah, mixture. Yeah.
And Natida was Thailand.
Yes.
Their son born in
Belgium.
Belgium.
And now they live in Thailand. And he's building he's building 2 Warrams. That's another story. You guess the fun because they eventually leave. Yeah, Laramie, there is an element of that. But isn't that true of all of us?
Just not to get too attached.
Yeah. 2 weeks. 2 weeks is good, isn't it? You know? Yeah. Yeah, good one, Nick. Well, that's why we wanted to start the channel. That's why I wanted to start the channel, because I was the same. 40 years I'd heard about Warrams, completely ignored them. It was a kind of a stigma, or people thought they were hippy-dippy or something, I don't know. There was the nudity thing with Warram himself, multiple wives, he was never really accepted. But, we went through that whole process. We talked about it in early videos of investigating other boats and then following the philosophy and then winding up with a Warram. And then falling in love with it, pretty much first sail, it was amazing. It was like a magic carpet to sail on this thing. The motion of those hulls is it just instills such a sense of safety in you. If you're a bit reticent about catamarans, the Warram's a really safe platform. You feel it on the boat straight away. And that's, don't get me started. There's a good video, I don't know if we'll kind of expand on it or what, but we did one with James. I was really happy to get that one out. It didn't get a lot of views, but James is just in the process of buying a Tiki 38 now. He was one of the guests who came to check out our boat before making the buy, and he and I just bounced stuff off each other we made Zaya and James's partner Kat bored to tears, I'm sure, over the 10 days or so, but we were just going off of all these things about the boat that were fantastic. And he's got a load of sailing experience, and he's a really good talker too. He's got wonderful expression, so I thought it would be great to get James's views out there rather than just hearing it from me.
Yeah,
it's a good video if you get a chance to see it.
What's his boat name that he bought?
Well, I don't know if it's public yet. He's still keeping it a bit quiet.
Is that?
Yeah, all these Warram people are all very secretive about their deals.
Right, because they don't want to lose it?
They don't want to lose them. There was another one just came up today on the Warram Catamaran group. It's a fellow asking questions about what you would do when you were surveying a Tiki 30. And Rory piped up and said something like, oh yeah? Where's the boat? What's the name of it? Because of course Rory's just bought one. And as Rory said, or aren't you telling? And the guy never came back. So getting a good one is difficult, and I know exactly what those guys are going through when they come across something. They want to get their talons in it before saying too much about it. It's understandable. Yeah, guests are fun because they leave, but they're also fun because they come along too, Laramie, and we missed them at the end. When Mick left, I don't know if we ever talked about this, Mick, but when you left and that was the end of the season, the boat felt quite dead. It was just the 2 of us, and we love each other's company. We spend 24/7 together, but there was a really special time, all that, and it did leave a lasting impression on us. In a lot of ways, that season was a test for both Zaya and I to see whether we would enjoy doing, the guest thing and the chartering sort of angle. I don't know if any of you know, but I actually started a charter company, founded one in North Queensland in 1998, and then ran it, built it up to about 6 bareboats in North Queensland, opened up a whole new area, about 500 square miles, 14 islands, got the environmental permits and all the marine safety permits and so forth, and it was quite a successful business. We had a lot of headwinds like in any business, and then I sold it in 2003, and I really enjoyed it, but it was 24/7 and it was bareboat, and if you know anything about bareboats, once you say goodbye to the boat and it leaves the harbour, it's kind of beyond your control. We didn't have any coronial inquests. We didn't have any major issues actually. A couple of groundings and that was about it after hundreds if not thousands of charters. But at the end of it I was pretty exhausted, and I thought, well, if I ever get back into chartering again, it'll be skippered charters, skippered and crewed, so you can at least be with the boat and keep an eye on things. So that's always been in the back of my mind as well. And so we were kind of dipping back into that charter thing and seeing how I felt about having people on board. And it was a bit of a trial this season. And I think it went very successfully. You know, we feel really positive. And as I say, we were left with that feeling at the end of the season. So that may be a path for us going forward. A future path. God, I prattle on, don't I? Well, there was 5 viewers before, and we thought we were winding up, but now there's 9 of you. So keep the questions coming. I'm enjoying the moment to be able to interact with you all. It's wonderful. Yeah, Andy, is it? I don't know what that acronym means. Sorry, mate, I'm not right up on that millennial stuff. But it is private. Yes, I think you're right. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, he won't be able to contain himself when he goes public. And Tony's boat's about to go in the water too. I guess Tony's busy. Shame he couldn't join us, but Tony Anschutz, you've probably seen him comment a bit on videos from time to time. He's the fellow who's just completed construction of his Tiki 38 in Philippines. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure, Nick. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that was one of the roles that they were designed for, apart from being, cargo boats or boats capable of carrying 8 to 10 tons of cargo. They were also, in fact, TRA, the 55 in Japan, is being used as a charter boat. I can put you in touch with him if you like, Nick, if you want to exchange, or you can just write to him yourself. He's a nice fella. I don't know, what is it? AFA? Oh, as far as I know. Right, duh, I didn't even connect that. We're with it now, Andy. Thanks for that. So you got any tips for good YouTube channels, guys? I've given you mine, SV Seeker.
What is it?
I don't know, that's the longest pause we've had so far. I'm not sure whether the questions are coming and it's just clogged in the pipeline.
He swore me to secrecy as well.
Yes. Well, there looks like a couple of new people have joined us. So you'll have to write your names or note something in the comments so we can welcome you. hopefully there's not an issue with the connection. We're just about to wind things up, which is a bit sad because I see there's 11 viewers out there now. Yeah, that's interesting, Nick. Yeah, he does a good job of that. I don't think much of the boats he looks at, though. Doodles, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he had a look at that Lagoon 400. I don't really want to bag boats because every boat has a role. And I think the Lagoon 400 is very good for the role that it does, but I think you need to make that clear when you do a boat review. You know, this is a charter boat. It's designed to accommodate people and comfort. It's got a lot of systems on board that, you know, that would be akin to an apartment, air conditioning, generators and all of that stuff that you eventually need to maintain. But yeah, I mean, he needs to kind of say, well, this is a charter boat. If you want a boat, come and charter it. But they kind of leave all that out, and it gives viewers a kind of perverse or a kind of a warped sense about the different roles that boats have. Yeah. Laramie, you can't go wrong, and it's just down the road from you. That's the remarkable thing. You guys in the States are so lucky to have the Caribbean right on your doorstep. Perfect sailing weather most of the time.
Landlocked in the other side of the world.
Andy, you're a serial patron, aren't you? What is that? One bloke. No, one bloke. I won't click on it now, Andy. I will check it out though.
No one bloke.
Ah, Johnny, true. You should go and say g'day to him. Runs his aviation channel out of, because Johnny's into aviation. Yeah, you're right, Nick. Yeah, that's good. Not just see them, but if you can get on board them as well, you quickly know what you like and what you don't like. And all of that's, I mean, I should probably listen to my own advice. I've been a shocker with boats over the years. I normally fall in love with one and that's it, but it always works out well in the end. But it is good advice, especially if you're a bit green to sailing, you know, to get on other people's boats and get a bit of experience. You'll quickly know.
Flying Doodles. Is there another one called Flying Doodles?
He's started another channel, yeah. Sailing Nervous, okay. Cool, good one, Terry. I'll check them out. Yeah, it's Sean and Julia. I might have checked in on them once or twice. Sailing Nervous, no, haven't seen them. A while yet, Mick. It's going to be a while, mate. Probably at least a couple of years, probably longer away, to be honest. But we've got all of Central America to see. We really would like to get up and meet patrons, particularly in the US. Maybe up the eastern seaboard, and in all honesty the Caribbean still holds a whole lot of attraction for us, so we don't feel rushed to get out across the Pacific. It's quite a big step coming from a person who was born in the Pacific. When you go out that way, we might never come back. It's quite possible, and we're also going a very long way away from our viewers who we've grown to love and be close to. I'm starting to see it from a sort of a northern hemisphere centric point of view, and the Pacific is, you know, it is a bloody long way away from everywhere. Take it from a Kiwi. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've never heard a bad thing about Ran. They sound like they're really out there. You're in. What do you mean you were in Florida last Christmas, but you couldn't get away? Oh, you wanted to go down to the Caribbean. Yeah, well, Christmas would have been nice in Florida. Perfect time of the year right now. Time, yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. If you can hook your if you've got a smart TV, or you can hook your computer up to your television and you're just doing things in the home or the kitchen. I mean, I'd rather have YouTube going in the background than any of the channels on offer, with the exception of NHK, which I quite enjoy in small doses, the Japanese channel. It's, yeah, NHK World, it's really very good.
Happy channel.
Happy channel, yeah, it's a happy channel. Are you, Nick? Okay. Yeah, Nick, I think we might have corresponded a while back. Not sure what you were doing back
Just
then.
before you finish your second.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we love South Africa, mate. We'd come back there in a flash. It's just really disturbing to hear all the political stuff going on down there. It disturbed us when we were there, and it wasn't half as bad then as it is now. So many good folks though, and real goers too. Against, a backdrop of no political help. Okay, all right, yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, no, we don't really have a plan to, Laramie, Johnny, you crazy man. You should put some of that money aside for your own boat. Oh, that's sweet. We're your favourite out of all them. You got to come out for a sail with us. Or you all should. If we can arrange it. One way, we'll find a way.
We might do it next year.
Well, we might have to bring the boat to you. Well, I think that's what we would like to do, is get it into the US, so at least we can go out and do some day sails with a bunch of folks, find some central place at the right time of the year. I don't know, it's hard to arrange. Boats, they're always moving. Laramie, really? Okay, well, keep in touch, mate, yeah. I've got a bit of a thing in mind to sort of base ourselves, when we do get back in the drink, to spend a bit of time around Belize. It's not far from Guatemala, but it's got an amazing barrier reef there. It's got easy access to the States in terms of flights and visas, and there's no issues. And it's, cheap.
Guatemala?
Belize.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think what we would do when we do get sailing again, I've kind of loosely been thinking, base ourselves out of Belize and just explore that barrier island group up the coast of Mexico, and try and do something with guests, out of Belize. And also get into the diving side, because Zara and I both dive, but we've done precious little of it, mostly just snorkeling. And of course the reefs there are remarkable. Yeah, I know what you mean, Nick. Someone made a joke about New Zealand the other day, and it probably applies to South Africa too. They said something like, I had never heard it before, you navigate your way around New Zealand by directions like turn left at the concrete hull, right at the trimaran, left at the Van der Stat in the front garden, on it goes. It's pretty true. do-it-yourself mentality, absolutely. It's the Southern Hemisphere thing, I think, being so far away from the rest of the world. Sorry we seem focused on the text box. Bruh, yeah. Well, that's true, Laramie, I know. It's true. Can't argue with it. Break out another 1,000.
Unique sailors would be
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, good one, Robert. Yeah, well, we like that idea too. We did that with our slow TV thing ages ago. Before Dallas. And it's actually, funnily enough, that video's had about 13,000 views. And it's really literally a camera set up, just recording Luckyfish on a pretty nice bit of champagne sailing. But doing it with a 360 camera, which is something that Richard Bergen's been suggesting to us for a while now, would be quite neat. Yeah, well, we'll have the new baby about June, so it's pretty unlikely, Johnny. But hey, Johnny, there's a Warram Hui at Isla Morada, if I can pronounce that correctly. It's one of the keys. It's in May though. It's a month ahead of when you'll be there. But if you want details for it, let me know and I'll send them through. Or you can just Google it. It's a Warram Hui in May. Yeah, that's right. We will be. It'll be deep in the world of nappy changing at that point. Well, you guys have been really good to stick it out with us.
So it's almost 2.5.
Yeah, it has been over 2.5 hours. So be in Cabo. Cabo where? Which Cabo? No, Terry, in an answer, I'm not.
Science fiction.
No, mate. Why do you ask? When you say fan, I've kind of shunned it over the years. You know, I've just kind of made my mind up early that there was only enough time to read non-fiction, and that's pretty much where I've been. I never really got the science fiction thing. But then you've got a guy like Elon Musk out there changing the world. And of course he's an avid reader, and I'm starting, as you grow older, your views change about things, and I'm starting to realise that your imagination is probably one of the most important human attributes we have. So I can see the merits in, you know, non-fiction, science fiction.
Programming idea bits playing a video of
Yeah. Yeah, nice, Robert. I think I might be watching those myself now, to be honest.
Sit on the couch. Cabo San Lucas.
Cabo San Lucas, that's Sea of Cortez, yeah? That'd be a cool bit of coastline. That's right, that's on your radar, I take it, Robert. Yeah, that, ever since I read John Steinbeck, you know, The Log from the Sea of Cortez, that place has always held a place in my imagination.
Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah. West Coast. not really on our radar. Hey boys, south of Sea of Cortez, fantastic. Yeah, well you boys are so lucky to have a dad like you've got, you know, with all his experience of the sea, and then to go take you boys out sailing. Gosh, what an adventure you have ahead of you. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Nick. Yeah, it hasn't gone unnoticed. Yeah.
Funny that some guys, one or two guys, were pissed off that we were sponsored by that. Which company?
Yeah, I'm not going to make jokes like that anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it, you know. I thought it was a pretty transparent joke about being sponsored by Monsanto. And a couple of people said they were going to unsubscribe immediately.
Yeah, we're shaking.
Oh, well, I don't think they were sincere viewers. Is that right? Yeah, about the marine life in the Sea of Cortez. Yeah, that's wonderful. Good, Robert. We've got some friends, Cassie and Sean West. You probably know them. They have some YouTube stuff of the Sea of Cortez that they did on a warrum, on a small one, an outrigger. If you don't know of them, sometimes it's a good idea not to watch YouTube channels before you go to a place, just quietly. Leave it all open for the imagination when you get there, so maybe I shouldn't recommend them. But they have made some nice stories about their time there. They were pretty much just living out of a backpack, real light.
Island. What's their channel called?
Yeah, I know, we just take it for granted, don't we, Laramie? It is crazy. It sort of occurs to me it's crazy that we've brought all these wonderful video images back with us on a, hard drive or whatever, and we sit here in Mongolia editing stuff from Bahamas and then sharing it with the rest of the world. I mean, that's pretty mind-blowing.
We looking at our total view hours. It was like 25 years of
Yes.
Menton, right?
Yes. If someone was to sit down and watch
25 years
It'll take-
watching our videos.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that's
crazy.
we're responsible for wasting 25 man years of human endeavour by publishing video. I think Dallas probably do that every month. It's taken us 2 years, but they literally get the same number of views as we've had in 2 years. They get that on a monthly basis, so it gives you an idea of the scale of how much material is going up on YouTube and how much of it's being watched. Yeah, well, that's probably right, Robert. That's true. I think there's a very good chance we're going to meet up at some stage, Robert. I certainly hope so. Now, wouldn't that be great? We can raft up, then we'll have a lot of deck space.
Yeah.
Have you, Robert, tell me, have you cruised at all in the Caribbean? I know you've captained ships past it for years, but have you spent any time down there? Oh, right. That's good to know. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, Mexico, like all these places, you know, they get a bad rap in the press, but then of course you go there and you find out that they may be just talking about isolated parts. I think Mexico's like that. There's some big expat communities in Mexico. A lot of Americans, you know, gave up on the States and just moved down there and got lost. We met quite a few like that in Guatemala too. That's another wonderful place, you know, the Rio Dos. If you ever get, you know, fed up with the West, you go down there and just lose yourself. Fantastic. Where else? Caribbean, oh my goodness. Don't want to talk politics, but just one observation. Down in the Caribbean this year we met a lot of cruisers who were, one, refugees from the Obama years, and two, new refugees from the Trump years.
And
The Americans just getting out of Dodge and buying sailing boats, learning how to sail. And it's quite a big new population of cruisers that are sort of escaping America.
And they ended up staying in a one.
Yeah, all staying together on the same beach, you know. But we love America, but then perhaps that's because we can sort of dip in and dip out. But I'm very sad about it, all the division. It's really, I don't believe it's the people at all. Fishing in Mexico is amazing. Yeah, well, I bet. Yeah. Oh, right. Oh, I've seen that video, Laramie. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, you've been spoiled, mate. You got to do a lot of fishing. There's professional fishermen who've never done that. Landed a 290 kilogram black marlin. Landed too, right?
When we went to Cuba, they were having competition catching marlins.
They were. That's right. They were.
They, by the way, they invited us for the next year
Mm-hmm.
contest.
That's right. Yeah, there was Cuban marlin fishing contest. We had some great experiences on that whole Cuba thing, but sadly we lost all the video, as you know. We might try and retell the story some other way, but there's memorable images sailing along the north coast of Cuba and seeing the local fishermen and nothing more than rowing wooden dories landing big marlin. And I don't know what sort of fishing technique they were using, because of course marlin fishing as we know it is travelling at quite high speed with a lure, but these guys were parked and they must have been pilking, Mick, you know. They must have been doing something like that, but they were catching bloody marlin, you know.
Yeah, half of their little boat.
We saw two, as we sailed along that north coast, you know, one of them, the first one we sailed past, they're only 50, 100 metres away, gave them a wave. There's the guy holding up this bloody marlin to wave back at us, you know, look what we caught, off hand lines. Incredible. Don't know. Oh, that's a gur there, Axel. Well, it was. Yeah, there you go. There's, they call them yurts in the west, or they call them gurs here. I'm not sure if the vision's very
If I turn this
light off. Yeah,
better.
that's a. You can see. Not really. It's probably very pixelated where you are as well, I guess. But yeah, that's just some scenes of Mongolian countryside. The round tents that the local people live in still, the nomads.
Stuart wants to live in it.
That's all you need, really. Don't need much more. Just a yurt and a good internet connection. Right. Yeah, well, Caribbean, Robert, get down there. You know, there's still, this is the amazing, the thing that amazed me, that there's still hideaways in the Caribbean after all these years of tourism down there. you know, with the cruise ships, and also, I guess, with the sailors too, to a large extent, from those sorts of tourists. We had no trouble in a place as beautiful and as close to America as the Exumas, and as done to death on sailing YouTube channels. We had no trouble at all finding isolated places. I mean, Mick would vouch for that. I mean, what about Ruins Bay, Mick? How fantastic was that place? And it was, what, 2 miles from Georgetown, the absolute hub of the cruiser community down there. And we were in this lost world in this beautiful bay. And, you know, there were sharks in this bay, or perhaps just one shark. And in the mornings, he would jump out of the water and spin in the air. We never caught it on film, of course. There's no warning. He was a spinning shark. Give you a hell of a start. But yeah, you know, there you are in the middle of, you know, cruiser central. So it's not done to death at all, the Caribbean. Maybe there are parts that are, but you know, with a warren, with shallow draft, you can find your places.
They said it seems like Mongol goes out of an episode of Star Wars. Out of. What's the name?
Sorry guys, just catching up on your comments here. Yeah, 75 horsepower Mercury, alright. Facebook group called YouTube Sailing Channels, yes. You must have pick up a few good subscribers, I'm just posting your videos there. Yeah, I know the group, Nick. We just put a post up there for the first time 2 days ago. It wasn't a video though. I know what you mean. I kind of, yeah, I don't know. I don't have that sort of marketing head where I really have trouble posting our stuff up on Instagram and that sort of thing. Probably should keep my thoughts to myself, but I think Instagram's a bit, it's for teenage girls and narcissists. Look at me, you know. I don't know. It's nice that we've been able to build this community with you guys without having to sort of, you know, shout it all from the rooftops. We need a good marketing manager, that's what we need, yeah. They said it seems like Mongolia is out of an episode of Star Wars. Yeah, it is, I know what you mean, kids, yeah. You know, I shouldn't call you kids, you're not. 6 and 8, big boys. Yeah, well, you know, there are places down in the Gobi which would be great film sets for things like Star Wars and Doctor Who. Yeah, but who'd look after them, Robert? I think that's a great idea. Someone suggested that a while back, sticking a warren in a sort of a warren community, and one in Indonesia and one here and one there, one in the Greek islands.
Would be great, huh?
Yeah, I know what you mean, Terry. Yeah, I know. Okay, Laramie. Well, you must be a narcissist then, mate. We go in waves on it. I do. I go in waves. Sometimes I have an image that I want to put up there. I don't know. What am I looking for? Positive dopamine hit or something? Some likes? Yeah. Good old Doctor Who. Good on you. Well, at least you know it.
you would make a great Doctor Who. Who's Doctor Who?
I've got to show you some Doctor Who sometime. How's your tum? All right? Everything under control there? Yeah, I know you're a special group, that's for sure. Wonderful. We might have to call it quits. I think Zaya's getting a bit restless. It's now 4 o'clock in the morning here, so it's 3 hours past our bedtime. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, if you get your boat down to Sea of Cortez, Robert, we can talk. Could be a start of something, eh? Like Airbnb. Righto. So guys, we might call it pull up stumps. I know Nick will know what that means. The rest of you I'm not so sure.
Have a look at the one on the east coast of Africa.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know, Nick. We've heard a lot about it. We've got a couple of Warram contacts over that side too. Yeah, the South Africans, I know you guys love that part of the world, that east coast. Never seen it. Heard nothing but good things. Pleasure, Terry, you know that. Yeah, she's a champion. Yeah, she's my wonderful support, guys. Without Zaya, none of this would be happening, trust me.
Miss Mark, keep up the great work.
Yeah, well, we love you too. All right.
Bye.
No. Shame it's 2 minutes behind. I feel like, it's like a message from Mars or something.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Best of luck.
Yeah, our pleasure, mate. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Right, we're going to sign off. We're going to end the stream.
It's down there.
Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the weekend wherever you are. Take care. Bye.